The Toronto Raptors have selected Alijah Martin with the 39th overall pick in the NBA draft, and this pick gave us a lot more insight to what the Raptors are planning for this season and beyond. Let's get into it. Welcome back, everybody. This is Amateur Sports, a YouTube channel that is completely dedicated to providing you with Toronto Raptors content, and the NBA draft is in the books. We already talked about Colin Murray-Boyles in my previous video, but today you're going to learn exactly who Alijah Martin is. The 39th overall pick by the Toronto Raptors, as I said, comes into the league after 5 years of playing in college. But it is a very large reminder here with Alijah Martin of exactly what the Raptors are looking for with their picks as of late. We'll learn more along the way. But Alijah Martin, as I said, 5-year player in college, played 4 of those years with Florida Atlantic, where he did make a Final Four appearance. But in his 5th year, played for Florida, where not only did he make another Final Four appearance, he won the national championship with this team. Along with winning the national championship alongside first-round pick Walter Clayton, Alijah Martin was the second best player on the team. Second best player on a national championship. That is pretty impressive. Alijah Martin is a shooting guard, and you would think with the height at 6'3", that we'd see some more combo guard sort of thing here, but that's not the case here. Not a point guard. Shooting guard pretty much strictly, so a little bit undersized. We'll talk a little bit more about that later on in the video, but makes up for it a little bit with the wingspan here. Measured the combine at 6'7.5". I have 6'8" here, but as I said, with a 5-year player, 23.5 at the time of the draft here. So one of the older players for sure in this draft class. But the Raptors did similar last season with Jamal Shead, and that has worked out a little bit. We'll talk a little bit more about that later. Let's get to his statistics, because there are some impressive numbers to go with this. Alijah Martin is known for having some toughness as a defender, but there are good offensive numbers to go with it as well. Pretty good score with 14.4 points per game, willing and capable rebounder with 4.5 rebounds, and averaged over a steal per game in 4 of his 5 college seasons, averaged 1.3 steals per game across his college career, and in his final season of college ball, averaged 1.5 steals, as you see here. Very efficient player, 57% on twos, and 35% on 3. And for a lot of players that, even some that we've talked about in this draft process for the Raptors, you have a small sample size of one season where they shot the ball well, and you wonder, is that going to sustain itself into the NBA? For Alijah Martin, he shot above 36% from 3 across his 5-year college career. So on a very large sample size, shot the 3 ball very well. And in this season in particular, he took 5.9 3-point attempts per game, still shot 35%. Nice to see. Solid free throw percentage gives him a true shooting percentage of 57.6, which is nice to see. An efficient player who can play defense, who can space the floor. Good stuff to have. What other strengths are there to his game? I think the biggest thing the Raptors liked here, and this very much goes in line with what I'm talking about for the purpose of the video, what it means for the Raptors, what they're trying to do with picks like this. He is a gritty player, ultra competitive, brings this excellent element of toughness. And that's just the kind of player the Raptors are targeting as of late. We saw it last season with Jamal Shead, like I said, that grit, that toughness, that defensive capability. Even if they are a little bit undersized, they can play above it. And alongside that, they have the winning mentality. They come from winning programs. Like I said, Alijah Martin went to the Final Four with 2 different programs. That is extremely seldom seen. Houston had a ton of success with Jamal Shead there, and both of these players bring this great element of winning mentality. Not quite the same for Colin Murray-Boyles, but he still has that grit, that toughness, that defensive switchability. These are the types of players that the Raptors are looking for. They are seriously trying to instill this excellent culture within the team, and they feel like he brings a little bit of leadership to the team. Even though he is coming in as a rookie, he brings so many great intangibles to the team. Again, these are the types of players that the Raptors have been targeting, but there's also a great element of skill to his game to go with it. Size, like we said, is a bit of a problem in terms of his height. Makes up for it a little bit with his length that allows him to play a little bit above his size. Dan Tolzman, Raptors assistant general manager, said after the draft process and talking about this pick, they have belief that he can guard the 1 through 3, so there is a degree of switchability there. And what also makes up for the lack of size is the strength and power that he has. He showcased that power defensively, but he also showcased it on offense and getting himself to the rim. And again, we saw he was shooting efficiently on those twos in his season with Florida. Ultra tough competitor, especially on the defensive end of the floor, making him a good defender. But on offense, we already talked about it, an efficient scorer and a good shooter. Like the 35% from 3 is nice to see, projects pretty well as a 3-point shooter in the NBA, has a nice tight release, repeatable. I'm expecting good things from beyond the arc, and I already talked about it, the winning mentality that he does have. But this is a player that ended up getting drafted 39th overall. This is a player that probably wasn't even expected to go that high. The Raptors kind of reached to get him in this position. So there has to be some weaknesses to his game, and we can highlight them here. For starters, 23.5 is not exactly the type of player that you would typically want to see for an upside swing, but the Raptors, like, they've done this. Like, they did this last year drafting Jamal Shed. They did this last year drafting Jonathan Mobo, older players in the draft, players they are confident in their ability and feel like they don't need a ton of work, just maybe a little bit of polishing. Size is obviously a concern at 6'3". That leads to some questions over his positional fit. You know, when you initially look at him and you see 6'3" shooting guard. Well, is he playing that because of who he's playing with, or like, can he be a point guard in the NBA? The reality is, it's just not really going to be there. He's not a great offensive initiator. His handling isn't fantastic. His playmaking isn't fantastic. Turns the ball over a little bit too much and needs to work on that. Like, this is a guy who's going to pretty much have to play as a shooting guard, which, for the Raptors in some lineups, it'll be tough for him to crack the rotation. It's pretty deep right now. Probably will see some time with the G League, but hey, we'll see. Jamal Shed wowed us and ended up being a firm part of the Raptors rotation last season, despite coming in as a senior and despite, maybe some limitations offensively going into the year, but not going to be a point guard. Okay, because there's a lot of the ball handlers within the team, so if he does get some minutes in the NBA, the Raptors will be able to cover it, but defensively, like having to play at the 2 consistently against some guys who are going to be bigger, we'll see how he handles that situation. As a scorer, efficient, but mostly in space, mostly on straight line drives. Not a super crafty player that's going to use his shiftiness to get past him and get to the rim and create a shot. Sometimes, as a result, have to settle for some tougher shots in mid-range, but a byproduct of going for a player at 39th overall in the second round. There's going to be limitations, but there's things to like. There's his toughness, the mentality, the intangibles, and there is the skill as a shooter, a floor spacer, and a defender, which are great to see. But what was it about Alijah Martin that had the Raptors enamored? Well, according to Sam Vecini, it was a really good pre-draft workout that likely got him this nod at 39th. Let's listen into what he had to say when he was selected by the Raptors.
Alijah Martin had an amazing workout in Toronto that I won't share all the details of, but was significantly outplayed the player that he was going against, is what I was told. Was fantastic. This is a player that, from what I understand, like Masai Ujiri has really had interest in for a little bit of time here.
I mean, it goes without saying, I would love to know exactly who was the player he was going up against that he dominated in the workout seemingly, but we won't probably have the answer to that. The reality is the Raptors got a good look at Alijah Martin in the pre-draft workout process, and they were wowed. Masai Ujiri named in particular as somebody who became a big fan of the player. And Masai Ujiri, I'm sure when we hear from him, he will talk about the exact same things that I'm talking about in this video here. The mentality, the winning culture that they are trying to instill within the team, and the players that they are handpicking to help drive that culture forward. Hopefully Alijah Martin can get an opportunity to play with the Raptors, and we get to see what sort of levels he can bring. I am super excited to see him alongside Colin Murray-Boyles in Summer League. Summer League is already just around the corner. It starts July 10th. I'm really looking forward to seeing this guy because he showcased some great skill in the NCAA tournament, helping get Florida to the national championship. I think you bring a lot of great traits to the Raptors. But that wasn't the only piece of business the Raptors got done on draft night here. As always, I like to dip into the undrafted free agent market, and it's kind of similar vein here. They are looking to add this defensive toughness, and Shams Charania of ESPN reports that Louisville's Chucky Hepburn, the ACC Defensive Player of the Year, has agreed to a two-way contract with the Toronto Raptors. So there is definitely a type here, and that's what it means for this Raptors team. This is the type. This is who the front office is targeting. This is who the front office is looking to help supplement the high-skill players, the high-talent players in this team, and helping get this Raptors team back to the playoffs, get this team to another level. And honestly, a little bit curious about it, because this has always been the sort of MO of the front office, but it feels like they haven't really selected. It's been 2 years, but it just feels like this isn't the coach that embodies what this Raptors front office is trying to put in place here, and the type of basketball that the Raptors front office is trying to put in place here. After all, Darko Rajakovic's system is more so half-court offense oriented, like pick and roll heavy offense. And the Raptors have just done, I won't call it a terrible job, but they just haven't done anything to supplement this team with spacing. Maybe this helps that a little bit if Alijah Martin is going to be involved in rotation, which seems like something he'll have to work very hard to get toward, especially in his rookie season. But, going for Colin Murray-Boyles as well, much he's a great player, question marks about the spacing continue to dominate for the Raptors on the offensive end. So these are the types of players they're targeting, but now more work needs to be done. We have free agency beginning June 30th at 6 p.m. Eastern Time, which I will be live for right here on Amateur Sports, so make sure you're subscribed so you don't miss out on any of that content. And we'll see in trade season. They don't have really the cap space to make any signings of significance, so I don't see how that is going to help the Raptors to find any spacing. There's question marks still about the backup center options. I think that the Raptors will look to the flexibility of Jonathan Mobo and Colin Murray-Boyles as taking a lot of the bulk backup big man minutes when Jakob Poeltl isn't on the floor, so I wouldn't really expect much to happen there. And just because of the cap space situation, I don't expect any high-impact players to be coming in that department as well. So trade season may have to be the area where the Raptors find something else. And RJ Barrett has been dangled, but it's going to be tough to move him. So I like the Colin Murray-Boyles selection. I'm a big fan of this selection of Alijah Martin. I think he has the potential to be able to be a contributor for the Raptors, and that would be a success story for a second-round pick. And maybe that potential is there even out the gates in his first season to do so. But as much as I like these picks, and I understand the Raptors, of course, going for talent over fit, new questions will start to form. I'm not saying they had to address it in the draft, but it does have to be addressed in some way. Regardless, Alijah Martin, 39th overall. I like it. I'm happy. I'm super excited to see him get involved with the Raptors. Let me know your thoughts.